Hello and welcome to Chapter 18 of Nancy Goodame the Space Ranger. If you've been following and sticking with it, thank you, and hopefully over the next few chapters we can ramp up the pace a bit. Anyways, Chapter 18, a hen, a daw, a tree, let's go. True stories are always stranger than fiction. The stories we create are familiar. They help us understand our universe. Far, far, far away from where 2/3 of the crew of San Laika 1 were walking behind two Martians and a Jupiterian was a boy named Anthony McGinley. He was beginning to understand his universe by reading a book. He was reading it aloud so his sister Kate could hear, and hopefully understand too. The protagonist of the story was a woman named Nancy McGinley. It had been over a year since her very real and very human namesake had vanished. The people investigating what happened during her mission were no closer to explaining what went wrong, unlike young Anthony and Kate. Meanwhile, 731 million kilometres away, 4 humanoids were talking in a forest, and only 2 of them were Jupiterian. "Do ye know what Gulliger Unterwackle did?" said the taller of the orange boiler-suited humanoid. The smaller one glanced around him to make sure the conversation was not being overheard, and said, "He went to the travelling show about the dragon Blarden, and didn't even like it." He then nodded sincerely. "Such a flute," noted the tall, orange boiler-suited humanoid. "Yeah," agreed the second, smaller stranger. "That show was brilliant. They have fireworks coming out of the dragon's snout and everything." Now, the 2 orange boiler-suited Jupiterians had not introduced themselves, but had swung silently down from some vines several minutes after the end of Chapter 17, and had landed in front of European Space Agency mission specialists Bart McMorrow and Nancy McGinley, on the shingle bank of a stream on planet Jupiter, causing Bart and Nancy to freeze in their tracks and lose sight of a Martian sheriff and a Martian waitress/astronaut called Martina Ruddlesplitch. Bart and Nancy had been following Martina and the sheriff downstream along the left bank of a stream running through a valley called Polynyasp, which was situated in the Jupiterian Forest of Proverbs. All 4 had been following the Jupiterian founder of the Hobliogranciker Defence League, who was known as Bip/Gulliger Unterwackle, and he was on a mission to find the other remaining members of the Hobliogranciker Defence League in the hope of reuniting the league, which meant it was a busy and tiring morning, and left Bart and Nancy short of breath when the 2 boiler-suited axe-carrying strangers appeared in front of them. So tired and short of breath, in fact, that all they could manage to say was, "Who are ye?" Which was answered by the question, "Are ye friends of Gulliger?" from the taller boiler-suited Jupiterian stranger. The question had a sort of accusatory tone in it. "Why?" had been Bart's answer in the form of a question, which prompted the question and answer about a travelling show about a dragon called Blarden, none of which was any help to either Bart or Nancy and their quest to find their other human colleagues in outer space. Bart gave the answer a bit of thought. "So that show must be good," noted Nancy. "The tale about the dragon Blarden?" asked the taller stranger. "The tale of the dragon Blarden? Any good? Do you hear this one, marketer? Is the tale of the dragon Blarden any good?" "I take it you're not from round here," noted the smaller stranger/Mercador. No, we're from Earth," said Nancy. "And ye haven't heard the travelling show about the dragon Blarden there?" asked the taller stranger. "No," said Nancy. "Should we have?" asked Bart. "Should ye have? Should ye have? By the 9 triangula of Bongerlon, should we have? I don't believe this. Do you hear that, Mercador? He said, should we have?" "I heard, Mjokta. Such a dose. That dragon has fireworks coming out of its snout and everything. Anyways, sorry, what's your names?" Nancy McGinley and Bart McMorrow from the European Space Agency," replied Nancy. "Mercador O'Jumblin and Mjokta Flart from the Hobliogranciker Defence League," co-introduced the taller stranger, before saying, "I'm Mjokta. Pleased to meet ye, Bart and Nancy." He paused for a moment. "Right, anyways, Earthians, what are ye doing hanging out in the Forest of Proverbs with that flute Unterwackle?" "Yeah," agreed Mercador. "Sorry?" asked Nancy. "I was just agreeing with Mjokta," explained Mercador, "because Gulliger Unterwackle is a flute." "Right," said Nancy. She was unsure if a full description was warranted, but took quick stock of their situation and mentally listed 4 things, namely, she was on Jupiter, looking for 4 of her colleagues from the first crewed mission to another planet, the laws of physics seemed to have started working differently, the 2 strangers had said they were in the Hobliogranciker Defence League, which meant that they were the folk Bip/Gumgulger had been looking for. Nancy decided a description would be no harm. She said, I saw ye two. At least I think it was ye. In a dream with Bip. Sorry, Gumgulger Unterwackle. A wizard called Oberon has cast a tree into a ravine, and he wanted me to wash his clothes. And there was a small fat lad with a book, the Book of Bongerlon, and Bip had the same dream. We'd eaten haluba berries, and Bip said he needed to find ye. So myself, Bart, and 2 Martians went with him, and here we are. Where did ye say we were from? Are you going deaf, Mjokta? She said they were from Earth. Was it not the European Space Agency? Sometimes I wonder about you, Mjokta. The European Space Agency is Earth. Did you not go to school or what? You know I did, Marketer. You were there with me. Right, there you go. Eating haluba berries. Dream state clothes washing. The wizard Oberon. Sounds exactly like the kind of stuff Gumgulger would be up to. The flute. Did you have that dream too, Bart? No, I didn't eat the berries. They looked rotten. I don't blame you. And anyway, the point myself and Marketer are making to ye, Nancy, and Bart from the European Space Agency of Earth is that Gumgulger Unterwackle is a tool. The taller Jupiterian/Mjokta folded his arms and nodded at the end of his sentence. The smaller Jupiterian/Marketer folded his arms too and said, So ye know, don't trust him. We've warned ye what he is like, so heed the advice. If ye know what's good for ye, is that a threat? Asked Bart. No threat. We're just trying to offer friendly advice. Aren't we, Marketer? Indeed, friendly advice. Because of what Gumgulger Unterwackle did to us. What was that? Asked Nancy. Oh, it's not important. But Gumgulger has been very helpful to us. And he's going to help us reach Sosman Borkstapel, who has kidnapped our colleagues, we think. Sosman Borkstapel, said the Jupiterian called Marketer. Sosman Borkstapel, said the Jupiterian called Mjokta. I'd tie him to the fin of a rocket and pilot it into the sun if I had my way. I know well, Mjokta. I see. Well, yes. Gumgulger Unterwackle isn't all bad. Fair play to him for helping you. Well, right. Anyway, be careful of Gumgulger. That's all I'm going to say. And be very careful of Sosman Borkstapel. Yes, Marketer. Good advice on both counts. Nancy was now starting to have a tinge of doubt about Bip's motivation for helping herself, Bart, Martina, Runsplitch and the sheriff. But, is there something me and Bart should know about Bip? Sorry, Gumgulger Unterwackle. Yes, watch him. Could you not just follow myself and Bart up to him? Himself and the other 2 can't be too far down the stream ahead of us. They're probably waiting for us now. It's ye he's looking for. Well, he can keep looking. Isn't that right, Marketer? It sure is, Mjokta. Nancy and Bart watched as the 2 strangers quickly grabbed vines, swung at them with their axes, and rapidly ascended into the tree canopy before moving through the canopy. Their bright orange boiler suits meant that Bart and Nancy could watch as they leapt downstream through the branches. Suppose we better tell Bip we found the rest of the Hobliogranciker Defence League, noted Bart. Yeah, do you reckon we should mention they told us to be wary of him? Asked Nancy. What do you think? No, said Nancy. My thoughts exactly, said Bart. He started walking at pace downstream along the shingled bank and around a slight bend in the stream. The stones were small, rounded, and a layer of mud made them soft underfoot. Nancy followed, watching as the pair of Jupiterians disappeared into the high tree canopy ahead of them. Bart and Nancy were not long into their catch-up walk when they saw Bip, Martina and the sheriff. All 3 were standing facing upstream and watched as Bart and Nancy approached. Bip was pointing to the sun and shaking his head. Do ye not like your friends? The sun is getting high in the sky, and we've gone nowhere. Keep up with me for Bongerlong's sake, or by the time we get to Hobliogranciker, Sosman will have dispatched with the rest of your crew, shouted Bip. Yes, shouted the sheriff. Both of ye should well realise that we have just under 68,000 kilometres left to walk to find Budada and Flirt, and those other humans ye are fond of. Nancy stopped walking and looked at Bart, who ignored her and kept walking. Hang on, she shouted. How do you know what kilometres are, Sheriff? They are units of measurement. You said so yourself in chapter 10. I'm starting to wonder how you got a job as an astronaut, Nancy. Kilometres sound like a very simple thing to understand. If you were Martian, you'd have to work off kilometers, and they vary according to the amount of humidity in the air, which makes them a lot harder to remember. We found your friends, Bip, said Bart as they reached where Bip, Martina and the sheriff were standing. Where did you find them? Asked Bip. Back there, beyond the bend, about 600 metres upstream. Sorry, I don't know what that is in Cumitons. Or do you use them on Jupiter? No, said Bip. And are you talking about the rest of the Hobliogranciker Defence League? Yes, said Bart. Both of them? We think so, said Nancy. Two fellas, Mercator and Miachta. Mercator O'Jumblon and Miachta Flart, added Bart. That's them, all right. Did they say anything about me? No, said Nancy. No? Then what could you have talked about? The travelling show about the dragon Blardan. Load of rubbish. Waste of time watching it. Set a couple of fireworks off in the snout of a Tantalium dragon and the whole world thinks it's a masterpiece. You know, sometimes I wonder about other Jupiterians. Where did those two go? They swung up on vines above us and headed downstream, replied Bart. I've a feeling they're above us now, said Nancy. We are not, echoed a voice from high in the tree canopy. Bip's eyes shot upwards. He lunged towards the vegetation that bordered the shingle bank and grabbed a vine. Yes, ye are, he yelled. No, we're not, replied the echoing voice. Who is that? Shouted the sheriff. He looked up and fumbled for his crossbow. You won't fool us with your trickery, he added. Yes, we will. That sounds like that fella Miachta, said Bart. That's because it is Miachta Flart. And you can bet Mercator O'Jumblin is not far away either, said Bip, who had a vine wrapped around his waist and his axe raised. Where are you going? Asked Nancy. I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. I'm going to reunite the Hobliogranciker Defence League and then kill Sosman Borkstapel. A rapid whoosh signalled the fact that Bip was elevating. The sheriff looked up and then turned to Martina and then Bart and finally Nancy, then said, What's all this about a dragon? I don't know, said Bart. Something to do with a travelling show. It must be pretty good because Bip's two Hobliogranciker League buddies, or ex-buddies, reckon the fact that Bip didn't like it was a serious matter. Jupiterians, muttered Martina. Jupiterians indeed, agreed the sheriff. No show is good enough to fall out with a friend over. You haven't seen this show. Whoosh, slump, whoosh, went a sound. The three noises immediately preceded Bart, Nancy, the sheriff and Martina noticing a pair of orange boiler-suited Jupiterians standing next to them. Miachta, said Nancy. Mercator, said Bart. But, sorry, McGollar is up in the trees trying to find ye. What were ye doing spying on us from up there? We were not spying, snapped the two boiler-suited Jupiterians in unison. Yes, ye were. Myself and Bart watched ye heading off this direction through the tree canopy, and I'm fairly sure I saw those orange uniforms looking down on us just now. Your eyes could be playing tricks on you, Nancy. Couldn't they, Mercator? They could indeed, Miachta. And anyways, we're not here to talk to you or Bart. We've already warned ye. We're here to warn this fat lad and his woman about Gumgulliger. I'm not fat, snapped the sheriff. And I'm nobody's woman, snapped Martina. Right, if ye say so. Pleased to meet ye anyways. I'm Mercator O'Jumblin and this is Miachta Flart. And we've a warning for ye. Yeah, be careful of Gumgulliger Unterwackle. I'm strong and powerful. Some people might think I'm fat, but they're very wrong. It's all muscle and bone. You can be sure of that, noted the sheriff. What do you mean, be careful? Asked Martina. Let me put it to you like I put it to Bart and Nancy there, said Miachta. Gumgulliger went to see the travelling show about the dragon Blardan and didn't even like it. Ha ha ha, sniggered Mercator. Such a flout. So let that be a lesson to ye, continued Miachta. The two boiler-suited Jupiterians then nodded solemnly at each other and then at Bart, Nancy, Martina and the sheriff. What are ye two saying about me? Echoed Bip's voice from above. The voice was followed by a whoosh, which was accompanied with the downward swinging on a vine by Bip, which was followed by him landing in the middle of Bart, Nancy, Martina, the sheriff and the pair of Jupiterians known as Mercator O'Jumblin and Miachta Flart. Bip faced Mercator and Miachta and had his back to Bart, Nancy, Martina and the sheriff. He then boxed Miachta in the side of the head, which sent Miachta backwards. Mercator tried to respond, but Bip launched and landed a slap in Mercator's gut, doubling him over. Nancy grabbed Bip's elbow from behind as he made to launch a third blow. She tugged it backwards, causing Bip to lose balance and fall onto his side. Nancy kept her grip on his elbow and kneeled forward so her knee clamped Bip's head against the shingle bank. Watch those two lads with the axes, she shouted. I'll take care of them, shouted the sheriff, who moved forward, unholstered his crossbow, stumbled, dropped the crossbow and said, Get out of my way, Martina! Look what you made me do! Calm down, lads. Sosman is the real enemy, shouted Bart. It was a slightly unnecessary shout. Mercator and Miachta were red in the face and seemed glad of the fact that Bip was no longer swinging punches at them. Sosman is, agreed Miachta. Sosman Borkstapel is, agreed Mercator. I'd love to slice his fat head from his body, mumbled Bip from under Nancy's knee. Good, said Bart. So maybe you could leave the fighting with each other till after that. Drop your weapons, said the sheriff, who picked himself and the crossbow up and was fumbling with a bolt. We aren't holding them, said Mjokta. Good, said the sheriff. Well, don't pick them up. We're carrying them around our waists, said Mjokta. In holsters, agreed Morcador. Good, agreed the sheriff. Then that's fine. You can see that. I can. I was, just warning you both. And the same goes for you, Bip. I can't move. Nancy's kneeling on me skull. The group fell silent. Nobody seemed really sure what to do next. The sheriff held his crossbow in the air and theatrically tried and failed to load a bolt into it. The bolt fell to the ground. He bent over, picked it up and said, Let that be a warning to ye. Do as I say, because what I say is the word of the gut. It is, agreed Martina, and the sheriff is right. We shouldn't bicker with each other. She nodded to the sheriff's crossbow. That is what you meant, isn't it? Yes, replied the sheriff. No fighting. We're on a mission to kill Sosman Borkstapel, so let's keep things civilised. That's easy for you to say, mumbled Bip. You didn't have to sit through the travelling show about the Dragon Blardan. Shut your mouth, Gumgulger. That show was brilliant, said Mjokta. Were ye lot just bickering over a travelling show all these years? Asked Nancy. It's not just a show, snapped Morcador. Oh, OK, I'm sure it's great. It's not. Right, continued Nancy. But could ye just forget about it, so we can rescue our friends, and ye three can, give Hobliogranciker back its freedom from Sosman Borkstapel? That crazy extraterrestrial is right, Mjokta, said Morcador. Sosman Borkstapel is the reason we set up the Hobliogranciker Defence League in the first place. What do you reckon, Gumgulliger? Truce till we kill him? It was me that set up the Hobliogranciker Defence League. Ye two numpties and chuz just went along with it. But yeah, Nancy is right. We should stop bickering among ourselves and slice Sosman's fat head from the rest of his mortal appendages. And so it was for lunchtime on the third day of the first human crewed expedition to another planet. A reunited rebel army, 2 hungry European Space Agency mission specialists, 2 hungry Martians, and a very, very, very long trek to murder an evil interplanetary overlord. And that was chapter 18. Again, if you're following this, thank you for listening, and chapter 19 will be along next week.